So you guys really don't do anything over the holiday break, Christmas break?
Well, I don't know we don't do much. We've started to really pay attention to, I guess, our culture here, and everybody is so busy. So we do, before the break, we do, like a couple Christmassy type, Christmas party type things. But as far as trying to do any type of getaway or any type of outreach type thing over Christmas, so many of our people travel here, and so we just sort of pay attention to that. We do have, like, on Christmas Eve, we have one service that's kind of a designated we have like 5 services that day, like a lot of churches. But it's like a big student service, but for the most part, not a lot, man. Do you guys do a lot over Christmas?
No, we won't do a ton. Our normal programming stops for sure. We take a little break over there.
Yeah.
Let folks get out and travel and rest. But then we'll do like a couple things right before we come back to kind of re-engage. Do you do like a winter retreat or anything like that?
Well, see, yeah, and I was about to say that, we used to do that, but the numbers just consistently started tanking. And going down and down and down, and we were having a hard time. We were fighting to get people to come, and again, I think it's because so many of our folks here are mobile. So I'm not saying everybody should do it that way, but I do think you have to pay attention to your crowd.
Yeah.
And for us, because so many people travel, and that's not to leave those kids out that are stuck behind, not with nothing to do, but
well, and that's what I was going to ask. What do you think about? Because I think there's a tendency in student ministry in general to say, like, oh, if we can't have a ton of kids, it's not worth doing. And I know you well enough to know that's not what you're saying. But what about in a context where maybe you've got, a smaller amount, but that are a pretty dedicated core group? Do you think it's worth doing something? Is that like hey, maybe we do a leadership thing if we got folks around, or we just do something smaller?
Yeah, I think the key for me would be, what I would say the key is that you make sure you're careful to figure out. If you're in a place where you're going to have people around, you should do something. If you can leverage that. But if you don't have enough people to leverage, and I don't know what the magic number is there, but I'm just saying, sometimes in student ministry we do stuff just because we just do stuff. Like sometimes we just do it to do it. Oh, well, there's a break. We should do something. Oh, okay, I'm just saying, maybe be a little more intentional with that. And for us, it's just a matter of saying, hey, look. And then even as a team, even for me, just being able to take a break over the holidays and enjoy the holidays is healthy, for us. So yeah. So yeah.
How many moments over break have you sat and thought, man, we should do a New Year's Eve lock-in?
Nope, that's not crossed my mind one time.
Man, I could tell you horror stories about New Year's Eve lock-ins.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They never go well.
Well, hey everybody, welcome. By the way, welcome. That's Jody right there. I'm Chris. We're the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast, and we appreciate y'all listening. And we're just sort of kicking off the new year here, and Jody is a youth pastor out in California. I'm a youth pastor here in Georgia, and we love getting to do youth ministry. We love our teenagers. That's our main goal. Every week he and I both are actual youth pastors that are doing youth ministry on a regular basis. So we love this opportunity to get to interview folks from time to time. But this year we're hoping to continue to do that. But it's a lot of fun. So thanks for listening.
Indeed.
What's up, new people? If you're checking it out for the first time, welcome. Glad you're here.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think we've got, so we were talking topic-wise, okay? I know we got some sponsor stuff, but trying to think through, okay, what do we do end of year, beginning of year? We've talked about goals in the past and setting goals. We've talked about whatever. So we're going to talk about lessons we've learned in the last year. I think this is really helpful. And so there'll probably be hopefully some practical things for you to take down and take note of. If we'll put the link to the show notes like we always do. But I think this will be good. Now here's the catch. Here's what I was thinking. I think we're going to list these things, and then at the end of the year, I want to revisit and
Okay, great.
see if we have if we're learning the same things again, or if we
I like
if
that.
if we actually like took these things to heart. So
Yeah.
be good. Before we get into that, though, we do want to thank some sponsors. We love the folks over at YM360. So grateful for their ministry and their partnership and helping us make this thing happen. If you're looking for curriculum or camps or just about anything that you would need by way of student ministry, those guys are a great place to stop and look for sure. They top notch guys who also do student ministry on a consistent basis. They're not just selling you stuff to do it. They're doing student ministry day in and day out as well, and producing some incredible resources. You can use the promo code LONGERHAUL and save 20% on just about everything.
It's good stuff. It's real good stuff, man. I appreciate those guys a ton, for sure.
Yeah, indeed. All right, should we jump in here?
Yeah, lessons learned this past year, man. Mine are in no particular order. How about yours? Are yours in any particular order?
No, of course not.
Yeah,
That'd make
not
too
at all.
much sense.
Not at all. Well, give me one. What you got? Tell me something you learned this year, Jody.
So I'm gonna cheat a little. Not
See,
exactly.
We're just starting the list.
It's not a year to the day, but
cheating.
okay. Here's my biggest lesson. Really, is that moving across the country is really hard.
Yeah,
That
for real.
that would seem obvious, and it was obvious that it was gonna be hard, but I think the reality of how difficult that was probably is still setting in, and I'm grateful, man. It was good, and our church here cared for us well during that whole process of moving, and our family's done well. But it's not just starting over. It's literally in every area, in every way, you're starting over, and so there's so many things. And I remember there was a point, man, probably like 2 months in, that Sarah and I were sitting, and I was just, man, I'm just tired of making really important, life-altering, adulting type decisions. I just want to be settled and present.
Well, that really says something about the importance of this idea, though, that we promote here on the Longer Haul, which is we want you to experience longevity both in your current position and long-term as a career, potentially, if you feel God calling you to that. But it's interesting what you're saying. Man, moving's hard. Moving across the country even harder. So it makes sense to me that it almost supports this idea that staying put for a while really makes sense, because, man, can you imagine what you've been through this last year doing that every 3 years? Oh,
gosh, no. Well, and I don't think I'd be effective at all. And I think I'm even just from thinking through, I think we were able to do it as well as we have, and it hasn't been perfect, but it's been, it's really been pretty good, pretty easy for us.
I've watched it from afar, man. You guys have embraced it, and it's been a bit of an adventure for you, so that's good.
But I don't think we could have done it had we not had such a foundation under us of longevity, at least as well as we've done. And I certainly don't think we could. There's a lot of equity that you spend, a lot of chips you spend with your family to make that move, and everybody was bought in. But it takes a toll, right? That move takes a toll on everybody.
Yeah.
And I think if I had to turn around and do that again in a few years, a drastic move again like that, I just think over time that would destroy our family. I don't know how many times you could weather that. Maybe that's just my family. But I feel like, my kids are pretty solid when it comes to understanding what's going on, and we were really upfront with them, and they're older, which does make a difference. I know it's probably a little easier when your kids are younger, but and there's a lot of things that come with that, and I think, kind of I have another that probably came out of that, but maybe I'll save it. Because I do think it's really important, and I didn't think about it until the other day. I saw a post of someone in one of the youth ministry groups, and it really caused me to stop and think about, man, okay, where am I, and what kind of questions what kind of questions you wrestle with and over longevity,
Yeah.
And so I think, but yeah, man, moving, hard.
Yeah. Good. That's good.
What about you?
Here's a lesson this year. We'll do something a little bit more trivial, but directly impacted our student ministry in a crazy way. The impossible shot is good. The impossible shot is real good. So if you don't know what the impossible shot is, you can push pause right now and look it up. Long story short, it's this idea that if a guest comes, or if you bring a guest, the kid can take a shot at the impossible shot. It's a target. They use a Nerf bow and arrow. And it's not so much about specifically the impossible shot, but I tell you, man, there was something about that. We just hadn't done anything new like that in a while, and there was something about the newness of that really caught on, and our kids got super psyched about it, man. I mean, they were so pumped, and we had so many guests come on Wednesday nights as a result of that, and it was just really good. Now, if you want the resource, I mean, just go on to like the Download Youth Ministry Facebook group. There's and just search Impossible Shot. There's tons of examples of that thing, of how to do it and everything. But I just loved it, man. Like, it's so good, so good. Now, I will tell you that it has, we're probably going to push pause on it soon because it's starting to not be as exciting because I think it's kind of run its course a little bit. So we're thinking about killing it for a little bit. But the impossible shot, man, if they make it, they get a $100 gift card. Nobody's made it. Like,
That's
one kid made it on
impossible.
his, because it's possible. One kid made it on his practice shot.
Oh my gosh.
And the practice shot doesn't count. But since it was the first time anybody had ever made it, we gave the kid a $50 card. But it's just good. It's just good. And so lesson learned this past year, though, was, that, it's important to, especially when you have been somewhere for a really, really long time, it's important to keep things fresh. It's important to take time every once in a while and do something new. Learn from other people's ideas. And that's what we did. I mean, everybody was talking about it on the different youth ministry Facebook groups, and I saw the idea, and so we stole it, like everybody else did. So it was good.
No, that's good. That's fun.
Yeah.
And we did that. We did a whole episode on games.
Yeah.
Like Jamie Fallon style games, and you talk a lot about it in that.
Yeah, I think so.
As well. And so,
Man, it was huge. It really, it just had a huge impact. It was crazy how many guests we had.
That's cool.
As a result, so it was good.
Yeah, I'll put a link back to the games episode for that, just in case you're sitting here not sure, or you're just trying to figure out some things, because that's a good episode.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so this one kind of is the one I was going to allude to. This kind of piggybacks off the first one, and I really would love to hear your thoughts on this. So this is a question that I think we wrestled with prior to moving. So maybe I should have started with this one if we were going in chronological order, but we don't go in order. Can't do it anymore is different than shouldn't do it anymore. And so when we were trying to figure out, okay, we knew something new was in front of us. We just didn't know what that looked like. And the question swirling is, okay, is this still student ministry? We felt pretty confident, yes. That's where our heart was. That's where, but there are a lot of days, a lot of nights, a lot of Wednesdays, right, where you come home and you go, man, I just can't do this anymore. And I think when you say you can't do it anymore, that's a much different question than shouldn't do it anymore. And so, like we were joking about lock-ins, right? Yeah. I just can't do them anymore, right? For a million reasons. I hate them, for one. But, man, when I was like 18, 19, they were the best. That's the best youth event ever, right? Yeah, that's totally true. So as you experience longevity, as you age and get older, as your family dynamics change, and you kind of walk through all these seasons of ministry that we talk about so often, there are legitimately going to be things that you just can't do anymore that you used to do, that probably were pieces that made you feel pretty effective at what you were doing. And so I think if we're not careful, we can start saying, oh man, I just can't do this anymore. And then we bail. We step out of student ministry versus I shouldn't do this anymore, which is like a clear, like I shouldn't be doing student ministry anymore.
Yeah.
And so as you're building your team around you, whether that's volunteer team, whether that's staff team, finding people who can do those things that you can't do anymore, is really a crucial piece to experiencing longevity. You're just not going to you're not going to enjoy the same things, at 40 that you did at 25. You're not going to want to do things are just, your family dynamics are not going to be the same. You're not going to have as much time to give at 40 as you do, because you're going to have your own family, most likely. You're going to have your own kids. And so I think that's such a huge question, and it's one that we wrestled with pretty hard, and it's one that I have continued to think through over the year and find, man, just a really clear affirmation. And it's been good. It's been good. So I would throw that out twofold. One, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Two, just to say, man, if you're listening and you're struggling with staying in student ministry, I think that's a key question you've got to figure out. Is can or shouldn't, because as a student pastor, you can probably, a student ministry, you can still do all those things. You're not the one doing them.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, well, let's see here. We will get one of the more serious ones out of the way here for you. How about that? The yucky stuff of life will come your way. And I wrote that, and the reason, because honestly, it was just a reminder. This year, Wendy and I, we've had stuff in the past, like most people have had. But let me rewind this. Let me say this another way. Being in ministry and serving Jesus and doing your calling does not equal not having to go through really hard times. I knew that. I think we all know that intuitively and practically. But there will be moments, though, where the hard stuff comes. And I was reminded of the importance of having a strong foundation and why that matters, having a healthy marriage, having to have a healthy relationship with our kids, and being healthy in ministry, and honestly experiencing longevity. Because in August, I don't think we've talked about this really on the podcast. I've not been trying to keep it quiet. It's been on my Facebook personal profile a lot. But in August, Wendy, my wife, found out she had breast cancer, and so she went through a pretty long process there. I mean, there were several months there of going through that and treatment and figuring out what to do and all of that. We were very thankful that it ended up being a deal that she could treat, with surgery. She ended up having to have a double mastectomy, which is very personal type information. But honestly, I want to be very transparent with folks, and because that's the kind of stuff that really hits you in real life. So as I'm approaching 50, this year I'll turn 50, but having done this for a long time, this by far was the most difficult thing we have gone through. And our kids have been through a lot. Our kids both had scoliosis. Dylan had a massive surgery at one point, related to that. And so we've been through a lot, but this was more serious because it felt, life-threatening, and it was life-threatening, but it's also life-altering in some major ways, and we're still digging out of some of that. But I'm thankful that I have an amazing church, amazing group of friends, amazing group of people supporting us, but it was a reminder that it's just a matter of time before the yucky stuff comes, and I say that only to say, if you're listening, because this is super serious all of a sudden, and it's like, wait, what am I listening to? I'm going to go over and listen to Download Youth Ministries podcast. They're more fun. But this is the real stuff, man. And if you want to experience this thing long term, you've got to be prepared for these things because it will happen. Something, and it not necessarily cancer, but something is coming. And I know, I have enough friends to know that we've all been through something there. So that lesson, though, for me was just a reminder of, man, foundation matters. Foundation matters, and I am thankful that I've been here at Johnson Ferry for 15 years because as a result of that, the support that we had was just unreal. I mean, so incredible. So incredible. So, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's good. So my next one.
What do you mean it's good? What do you mean it's good? It was terrible.
It was
terrible, Jody.
You did a great job. That's a good word, man.
Yeah, but it was a terrible situation in our life, is what I'm saying. Are you still mad that I keep sending you pictures of Chewies?
Man, I looked so hard for Chewies in Tampa when we were there. And it was so far away. Oh, gosh. Yeah. All right, here's mine. My next one. Man, Volkswagens are just awesome. Like,
that's your lesson?
Yes.
Jody,
listen, bear with me here. I'm changing the mood.
Have you seen a picture of my new car? Because I'm pretty sure it's better than a Volkswagen.
Oh, no, dude. You had a moment. You had an opportunity. Not just Volkswagen. Like, I'm talking vintage, air-cooled. I'm
sure you're going somewhere with this. I'm on the edge of my seat.
So I've talked about this for a long time, and I stumbled into owning a really old Volkswagen really because I needed something to talk to my dad about. I didn't have a very good relationship with my dad, but what came out of that was like a really fun hobby, and so moving here, man, Volkswagens are everywhere in Southern California, and we've been to a ton of Volkswagen shows.
That's because everybody does drugs in California.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We were down at Venice Beach.
That's like what everybody in the South. That's what we think of when we think California. We're like Volkswagen and drugs.
Well, there's a lot of pot here, that's for sure. Okay. No, and so since we moved here, man, I've been to like 1 billion Volkswagen shows and met a ton of folks through that. And my point is this. It's really important that you have a hobby, something that you can do outside of ministry, I know for you, magic is a big hobby for you. I don't mean like a side hustle. Like, let me be really clear. Like, you need a hobby that you just do. That's not like another, this is going to be fun and I can maybe make some money. No, like, you just need something that you can go that's not ministry necessarily, that's just, that you just enjoy, that you can kind of just unplug and disengage and have fun with. And for me, that's been Volkswagens for a long time. But man, moving to Southern California has been like awesome in regards to that.
I bet, dude. But what do you have right now? Do you still have? You don't have your car. You had to get rid of your car, right?
I sold the Beetle when we moved.
You have the van, right?
I have the camper. Yeah, the 72 Westphalia camper.
Does it work right now? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious. Like, because I know it goes and comes. Is it running right now?
Sort of.
Oh, geez.
It will be.
What's it need right now?
A battery.
Oh, that's easy.
I know. I've been working on it. Over break, I took some things apart. I'll put them back together.
Dude, I've seen
There's a Volkswagen show. There's a Volkswagen show in Arizona coming up in like a couple weeks that I really want to go to called Buses by the Bridge. Like 600 Volkswagen buses at this thing. Oh,
jeez.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
So you really your dream is to really fix that thing up.
Yeah, it's my daily driver. And I want to go camping in it. Part of
you do realize how many kids you have, right?
Yeah, but I'm about to send a bunch off to college, so it'll get easier as we go.
Oh yeah, it's just because you'll have so much extra money floating around.
That's why I got to fix it now.
Oh, jeez.
But don't you think?
I was looking at
magic for you is a huge outlet, right? I mean, you enjoy that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got all kind of. I'm good at hobbies. I have to be careful about not letting hobbies become unhealthy in terms of.
Oh, for sure. I think we all have to do that.
Yeah. But it's a real, as nerdy as it sounds, it really is something I find very enjoyable. I love getting a new trick, and I've got one for Christmas that's ridiculous. And learning it and doing it on kids and all that. So yeah, it's fun. And it happens to bleed over into, into what I'm doing now. So it's good.
So do Volkswagens.
Yep.
I'm not exactly sure how yet, but
yeah, me neither. But if you like it, man. But I do agree. I think that's a good lesson. It's and think about it like this too. In the midst of all the change you had, to have something to take your mind off of everything for a minute. And even something that you could focus on there, because there's so many good opportunities there for that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good in a lot of ways.
Volkswagen vans running around this place here in Georgia.
No, man, but there's
Atlanta.
a ton out here, boy. You can't.
I bet.
You throw a rock, you're going to hit one in somebody's yard. I mean, there's so many people who just have them sitting in their backyard just waiting to be fixed. But, you just meet a lot of folks. I think that's what a hobby does. A hobby helps you disengage, like you're saying. Like, man,
you should put a vinyl wrap on it, man. You could just do that instead of paint it. I've been looking into vinyl wrapping things.
I could do that, but I probably won't.
Yeah.
You should do a vinyl wrap on your new
Kia Soul, baby. That thing is
your hamster mobile.
Hey,
those?
Watch it.
Weren't they hamsters in the commercial? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's how they launched it like 10 years ago or whatever, with the hamster thing in the commercial.
Every time I see one, that's what I think of.
It's small and zippy, dude.
That's why.
That's what my wife named it, Zippy.
Zippy? Do you have to wind it up before you go?
It's a lot faster than that. It's fast, dude.
You have to back up like 10 feet and wind it up.
Yeah, okay. Keep laughing. When you're here next time, you'll see. You'll love it. Because you appreciate that small car thing.
Oh, yeah. Horn works, right?
Oh, here's what's my Ford F-150, my bro-in-law, I bought it from him, and he had an Ooga horn on it. Ooga. Yeah. One of those horns. But he wanted to keep it. But he had lost the original horn for my Ford F-150. And so he had to go out and buy like a aftermarket. And so my horn on my truck is like, beep, beep. It's not that bad, but it's bad. It ain't that good. And so I'm not kidding. The horn on my Kia, I say my truck, I'm about to get rid of it. But the horn on my Kia is stronger than my truck. It's embarrassing. But it's beefy on my truck. Or my Soul. But anyway.
You love the horn when you're driving, that's for sure.
God put them on cars for a reason there, Jody.
Dude, you honk the horn. When I ride with you, it's like being in Central America, driving through traffic. I mean,
maybe I'm preparing for something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you love a horn, so I'm great. That was that the deciding factor? Kia over.
Yep.
You're like, all right, better horn, my car.
Yep.
All right, fantastic.
All right. Well, here's another one. I wrote down. So, change will. You and I both have a lot of change happening in our life, but this is the lesson I learned this year. After being in the same place for 15 years and experiencing longevity, change will come, and it's going to require a lot of patience. So this was the year for me where about a year ago, right before the holidays, so this would have been at the end of 2018, was whenever I found out my pastor, who had been here for 38 years, was moving on, and that we would have a new pastor. But then also our student pastor left, and I would take the reins in an interim capacity. And so for the last year, I've been learning how to work with a new pastor, and I've been leading our student ministry, and I've recently been given the gig full time. The interim tag is not there anymore. And I say that only to say that I was reminded that even in the midst of me embracing longevity and striving for longevity, that there's still going to be change at some point. And I don't know that I was prepared for it. It came real fast. We've handled it pretty well, I think, but it was change. Like it will come. And I just say that to say maybe I think the lesson there is to Just kind of have always in the back of your mind a little bit of a preparation in your mind of going, hey, this might change at some point. Nothing's permanent. We're all replaceable. That's not a negative thing for me. That's fine because this is all the changes have been. I love my new pastor. Sheesh, so great. And I love getting to lead our entire student ministry. So I'm not focusing just on middle school anymore. But it's been good. So, but change will come.
How easy would it have been to find reasons in the midst of all that to leave?
It would have been. I think it would have been pretty easy at times just to go, because there was a lot of patience required. Because when you have a new pastor come in, which is what we had, he's not able to make immediate decisions about long-term personnel, and so so I had to stay in a potentially temporary status as the interim student pastor all during his first really 6 to 8 months of being here, which was appropriate. It was hard at times though because I was ready to know.
Yeah.
But so it required a lot of patience. So in the midst of all that, yeah, it would have been easy just to kind of go, you know what, maybe it's time to move on, because we risked. Not that we had a ton of choice, but the scary part for us was, well, what if he doesn't feel like I'm the guy?
Right.
And
yeah,
that would have been a hard pill to swallow for sure. But yeah. But I'm glad we stayed with it, and stayed focused on it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, my next one is, and this is something we talk about a lot, and I think I've been reminded of. Maybe that's better. Does that count as lessons learned if you're being reminded of?
Yeah.
Just leading with a plan and a vision is really important. Being intentional. Even like you're saying at the top of the episode with why you are not doing anything over break, or why you're going to can or take a break from Impossible Shot, even though it's been really good. Like there's intention behind that. I think one of the dangers of longevity is that you kind of can easily get into a pattern of doing things and not really take time to evaluate what you're doing or where you're going, particularly, and I'm speaking more specifically of longevity in a spot, in a location. And so coming in new has really challenged me in that, in the sense of having to, well, even in your role, I know we've talked about like what you just shared, like stepping into even a new role with a little bit of a broader perspective of things, kind of has forced me to evaluate what we're doing in almost every aspect, and what's working, what's not, how do we get to where, what do we want to do in the future, what does that want to look like, and then how do we communicate that out. And so kind of starting at that big picture and then thinking all the way down to how do we communicate this, what details do we need, how much budget gets allocated to this, or how much time, or who's going to do that. If I'm not the best person, who is the best person? And I think, like you said it, you nailed it earlier when you said sometimes we just do things because we do things, right?
Yeah.
And I think student ministries, church in general, life, we're all guilty of this. But man, student ministry can, and it's hard to kill good things, right? Because everybody, even though no one's coming, they all love the idea of it. And so there's some things that you've done that are kind of like, I don't know, tradition, or it's just you do this every year. But like you said, you're seeing attendance drop over time, or people aren't as engaged, as excited about it. And so being mindful of how you go about kind of editing a bit and changing course or adding new things. I just think it's really, really important. And I see a lot of youth pastors, and I've been guilty of that at times, not doing that. And I think that affects your effectiveness. That affects certainly your longevity. It affects your volunteers. It affects your students. It affects the parents and families. So you really need to have a good plan and know where you're going with some purpose on things.
I think that's important too. A lesson in there, folks, if you're listening, is, and you probably have heard this phrase, but change in order to maintain the right to change. If you never take the time to evaluate and rethink and tweak, before you know it, you're going to have folks just really set in their ways, to where change is not going to be easy. So if you continually evaluate, you'll create a culture that's willing to evaluate, and that will ultimately help you whenever it does come time to change something big that's been around for a while. So
that's good. I just finished. I don't know if you've read it. It's The Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger.
Mm-mm.
The Disney 15 lessons learned from 15 years of CEO. The Ride of a Lifetime.
Is that what it's called? The Ride of a Lifetime? I didn't know it was called The Ride of a Lifetime.
Oh, it's fantastic.
No, I totally read it. I devoured that book. Loved that book.
Me too. Yeah, me too. And he talks a lot about making changes in that.
Yep. Let's get him on here. Yeah, let's get him on the episode.
You got some pull, right, with Disney?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. No. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's so. But he talks a lot about that, and being willing to take chances, and making the right decisions at the right time, and leading people really well. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's good.
He
also talks about how he bought Star Wars
and Pixar,
how he bought Marvel
and Pixar, and his relationship with Steve Jobs, and how that
it's fascinating.
Oh,
it's a fascinating book. I love it.
Those
so
good. Yep.
It's good.
He was pretty honest about some things too. I was like, oh, okay, go call them out.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, he was. He was very brutally honest at times. Yep. Okay, so I've got another one. You ready?
Yep.
Having a kid in college is nuts. And that's it.
I'm not excited for that, man. We're like on the cusp of that.
It's all good. It's good. And Dylan is awesome. He's on an episode a while back, as a matter of fact. When he graduated high school, we put him on here.
Yep.
And it impacts so much in our house in a lot of good ways. But in some ways, and honestly, I don't know that any of it's negative per se, but it's definitely impactful because there's just so much related to him in his new life and his new schedule. And now he happens to be staying at home going to college at Kennesaw State, which is a huge school here in Atlanta. And so I'm super proud of him. He's doing a great job with all that, but it changes everything, man. Family, the way it impacts things, but like even the way we traveled over the Christmas break with other family, like we had to think through those things. And the way we did vacation, we went to Disney, of course, over Christmas break, and it's just different. It's just different. And even the type of conversations I'm having with him. So, but it was a lesson. It was a lesson, and we're still trying to figure it out. Yeah. But I will say, I think having a strong foundation with him has helped make it a whole lot better because he's not, just trying to be done with everything we're about. He's
right.
just not like moving on. So it's good.
Yeah.
But it's a change.
So side note, you guys went to Disney over break. I saw that. Rode the new Star Wars ride.
Big time. The new Star Wars ride is incredible. We got up at 4:30 that morning, bro.
You won't do a lock-in, but you'll get up at 4:30.
Believe me when I tell you that the Star Wars ride is a lot better than a lock-in.
That's not hard. That's not hard.
But one day we really do need to tackle the lock-in discussion because, anyway, okay. But no, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. It's unlike any other theme park ride you've ever ridden. It's so immersive. It's like 5 rides in one.
They talk a little bit about it on, is it Imagineering on Disney Plus?
Yeah, yeah. Are they doing it in Disneyland? Are they open? Do they have the same ride in Disneyland? Is it going to open?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
I assume so, but I don't know.
It's good, bro.
Yeah. When you come out to Disneyland, you can tell me.
I will let you know.
Yeah. That's fun. Okay, I have one more. And this one, again, is something that I think I've probably said and known for a while. But again, I think moving for us has just exposed so many things that I had taken for granted or like not really realized. And so I have found myself I've moved a few times in life. I graduated high school, moved away to college, so 5 hours away. And then was there, we were 12 years there before coming down your way to Atlanta, where we were there for 9. Each time, I don't remember like wanting where I lived to feel like home. I don't remember that being a thing, but I know leaving each of those places, they all felt like home. And so, but coming in here for whatever reason, moving now, man, I find myself like really wanting this to feel like home, and wanting to settle quickly and get established. And it feels like where we live, and some days it feels like home. I think the importance of community and friendship cannot be overstated. And I think for me, man, that's kind of what makes home feel like home, are the relationships with people around you. And that's really hard in ministry, I know. And there's been tons of people written, who have wrote about that and have talked about that. I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but man, it's just really important that you find community and friends that you can do life with, laugh together with, and it takes time to do that when you're someplace new. I'm realizing and recognizing, but man, it's important, and it's important just in life, let alone in ministry. But I think especially in terms of what we talk about in longevity, man, if you don't have friends, and so what's been interesting and difficult is like I have really, really good friends who are still in Georgia, right? Who I love deeply and served alongside there for a long time. And so it's weird sometimes to talk about ministry in that context because they're still in the old context of where I was at. And so that's made it a little challenging. My kids, on the other hand, have made friends so well and so quickly, and have really, have adjusted so quickly and so well, which everyone told me it would happen. I don't know why we have such a hard time making friends as we get older, but we do. But I think community and friendship, man, huge.
What are you doing to try to make friends or to try to experience that?
Yeah, so
trying to go out to eat with people, or you?
There's a few things we joined a small group right away, for one, just to get in community with folks. Our church here has a small group model that meets off of the weekends, and so in homes. So we joined a small group right away, which has been huge for us, for Sarah and I. It's been so good in more ways than I could ever tell you. That wasn't something that I really had an opportunity to do, interestingly enough, in my previous context, because we always had more of a Sunday morning Sunday school model, and I was always teaching or leading one.
Yeah.
And so it's been good for us to do that. So that's part of it. I think just being intentional to have people into our home or invite people out if we're going to do something. Kind of stepping out of our comfort zone a bit, taking a little bit of what feels like a risk, which it's not, and just engaging in conversation with folks. Honestly, even going back to the Volkswagen thing, we've met some folks through that aren't at all engaged or related to our church or ministry. They just share this commonality of Volkswagens, and some folks within the church too. So I think all that's been really, really, really good. But yeah, and I hope we continue to do that better and better. And I think it comes over time too. But ministry can be a really lonely place. And I realized a long time ago that I can sit and talk about how lonely it is in ministry, or I could go make friends.
Yeah.
And so.
No, I agree with that big time as far as the, it's easy to sit around and mope and go, oh, nobody's inviting me to lunch, or nobody's inviting us out to eat. But you got to be the one, at times, you got to be the one to be out there getting it done, I mean, it helps.
Yeah.
For you to initiate some of that. For sure. Well, I've got one more. Are you done? Is that your last one?
That's my last one.
All right. So this one I think we could talk about for a minute. This is something that as I was reflecting on what I've learned this past year, I feel like it might be too strong to say it this way, but I don't know how. There's a storm coming, I believe. And here's what I mean. What's coming when it comes to teenagers will challenge us all in youth ministry to greatly rethink how we do youth ministry. And specifically what I would say, I feel like there was a little bit of information in 2018 on this, but I feel like in 2019 is whenever we really started to get a whole lot more research coming out, a whole lot more thinking related to this. But all of the Gen Z type studies really came to light in 2019. And as a result of that, I think what we're seeing is things we're at the beginning stages of what's going to have to be a new experience. And I don't know what that is, Jody, but I can tell you that I genuinely believe that we in the next few years are going to, in youth ministry, we're going to have to seriously think through how we're doing it in order to be effective. Not that we just can't keep doing things. We probably can just keep doing things the way we're doing them and keep surviving and be okay. But I think if we are going to really reach teenagers and help them to experience major life change and help them to genuinely be Christ followers, I think there's something that's going to have to be different. Again, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what that is, except to say that I know that in our student ministry, we're going to start asking that question. We're going to start digging into what have we been doing for the last 10, 20 years, but what needs to change. And again, this is not anti-youth ministry in any way, but I think because there was a day when the model was good, but the current model, and I know that's a big broad stroke when I say that, the current model, because the way you do youth ministry is different than the way I do youth ministry and across the board and people that are listening. But the generalities, I just think that there's going to have to be more. Don't get me wrong, I think we can still throw a pizza party and get kids to come, but is that going to be enough?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that there's going to be more and more of a disconnect with teenagers in the church or teenagers in walking with Jesus if we don't figure some of that stuff out. I think a lot of it's going to have to be a discipleship type, a rethinking of what discipleship means, a rethinking of how we help kids to experience that. But I really believe one of the lessons I've learned this past year is just what's coming, and that we're going to have to address some of these issues for sure.
I think I agree. I think the challenge is going to be that as a student pastor, you see that coming, but you have to have some really strong buy-in above you to make those significant shifts, in the sense that you're going to have really strong leadership from your senior pastor, or senior leadership, in most contexts, to be able to do that. And so I think how we navigate that will be interesting, and I don't know the answer either, but I do think And you're hearing more and more of that, I think, in student ministry as we're seeing it. And I think the big question that we probably have to reevaluate is, how do we define success? Because I think for the last 50 years of student ministry and church life, it's been a numbers game.
Yeah, sure.
And, I think numbers are important. I think they should be measured for sure, and I think you should keep track of that. But I don't think that is the end-all be-all, and it tells every story of every picture. And I don't think that we should use... I think you have to be really careful when you're communicating. This is a side note. This is free. When you stand up to communicate the success of an event that you've done, or something that you've done in student ministry, if the only thing you're talking about is numbers, what you're communicating to people is that numbers are what makes that successful. And so I think you need to be careful how you define success. But I do think it's going to look different in the future. I agree, in terms of how we define success and what we're doing in student ministry. And I don't know that anybody really has the answer right now. But I do think that there's a strong shift that's going to come at some point, or we're going to...
I don't think anybody has the answer necessarily right now either, Jody, but what I will tell you is that much like in the 90s, when all of a sudden the youth groups in town that started doing Wednesday night started experiencing major impact with teenagers, because they started doing things different than they had always done them. The churches in the early 90s that started hiring full-time youth pastors, again, led to more impact. And I just think that, and this is why I'm adding this to what I learned this past year, I think a change is coming, and I think it's going to be important for all of us to be willing to go, what's happening? What do we need to maybe be doing differently?
Yeah.
Are we successful? And if we're not right now, not just in the how many people are coming, but in the sense of, is there a life change taking place?
Yeah.
What might we do? And I think it will start with us being willing to ask the question and sincerely seek the Lord and pray and think through, well, what's God wanting me to do? Because what I think is going to happen is there will be I don't think youth ministry is dead. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a new wave that hits of something different. And I'm not talking about buying into the fad of what's happening, but a willingness to go, I'm going to look at who we are and how we can impact teenagers. But that's going to require you to be an expert, and that's going to require you to lead when you're not in charge and help your pastor to understand those things and be strategic and impactful and bring your people along. And it's just going to require a lot, but I think it's coming. I'm telling you, man.
That's good. No, I agree.
Richard Ross wrote an article recently. Did you read that article that came out?
I
See if
don't know.
that thing.
If you'll send me the link, I'll stick it in the show notes for folks.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'm trying to see if I can
He's been saying this for a while. When he was on our show, he was talking about that.
Yeah, he wrote an article recently, man. That was
a while ago.
Shoo. I mean, it was pretty good. So let's see, here it is. Yeah. Time for Radical Reevaluation of Youth Ministry. Came out on December 10th.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that.
And he is passionate about youth pastors.
Yeah.
Passionate about youth ministries. And you can tell it grieves him to have to be so brutally honest in the article.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you that link so that you can.
Yeah, I'll link to the article, and I'll also link back to his interview with us on the show, because that was really, really good as well.
Yeah. Maybe we should get him on for this article, as a matter of fact. He probably would do it.
Yeah. Yeah, probably so. Cool. Well, I don't know. I feel like this was a way heavier episode than I expected, but good.
I mean, I added the impossible shot in there for fun.
I talked about Volkswagens. I don't know if that counts.
Well, listen, folks. again, we have fun. We're fun youth pastors. I promise. We do goofy stuff. But the fact is that this is real life, and this is man, like, we want to provide meat for you.
Yeah.
There's tons of places out there to get, softer, more fun, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. It's great, but we're trying to help.
Some episodes of this podcast, actually.
Some episodes of this podcast, as a matter of fact. Sheesh. So, yeah.
So hey, let's do this.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. What if we do this? So if you are a member of the Super Secret Podcast group, or if you're not, go join. I would love, because we're going to post about this episode on there. We already kind of posted that we were recording it, but man, I would love for you to jump over there on that post and just comment with a few of the lessons that you've learned.
I'd love to hear from our people on that. Oh man, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
That'd be awesome. And then, so into next year we'll pull this back out and see how we've done. If we're just as serious and mopey.
Everybody's like, they're getting old.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. New format, new content. Now it's like a Dr. Phil show. So anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll post, there's a bunch of links we've mentioned here. I'll post all those at the show notes page at thelongerhaul.com/episode 102 for you, so you can head over and grab all of those. Again, if you are looking for resources, curriculum, anything camp, head over to ym360.com and check out what they've got there. So grateful for those guys. Be sure to use the promo code LONGERHAUL and save 20% on that. Yep. Otherwise, if you don't have anything else, man, I think we're done. Yeah.
That is it, man. Appreciate everybody. Have a great 2020, and thanks for listening.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.